It's Wednesday, my dudes. Welcome back to the stream. We are going to be reviewing a couple of wonderful threads being lifted to us by the Warhamster, and we're going to talk about a staple of this show since we started it kind of recently still, but that is players absolutely annihilating new players. just putting the screws to people who have never played a game of Warhammer 40 game before. I love these threads because they are so excessive. And we have a couple of them to talk about, some of them fairly recent. So that is what we are going to be doing today. Before we do that, though, we've got a new thing to talk about before we hop in terms of new releases. If I could navigate correctly. Oh my God, what is wrong with me right now, chat? I had to talk to somebody for an unrelated thing. For a different project, and they were like, "Oh, why don't you, in order to like try to make this piece of software work, why don't you reset your browser cookies?" I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And then suddenly I couldn't navigate to anything because it never autofilled. Like literally it forgot all of my like browsing history. I was like, "Motherfucker, it's actually very inconvenient for me." All right, here we go, chat. We got a new data sheet to talk about before we hop into the main thrust of the show. That being the new Barrick. Oh, oopsies. Sorry, chat. Something just messed with my mouse. Oh, we are getting off to a good start today. Hot damn. All right. Well, we're just gonna deal with it. The new Barrick Stormbrow data sheet for Leagues of Votann. I think, in contrast to the Twin Lance we saw yesterday, which was like just the flashiest set of effects, this guy is so unflashy. But I think conceptually that makes a lot of sense. He's like a working class man, right? He's just a good old blue collar delve shift worker, and he's just here to get the job done. Okay, he doesn't need whatever sort of special shielding and special melee rules and extra attacks and stuff and while you're in combat and all this bullshit. He's just gonna hit people with a hammer. So he's a new leader for Chthonian Berserks. As we can see, he comes with 2 melee weapons. This feels, I guess it's not typoed. It seems weird because it's like he has 2 attacks on Cromlock's Revenge, which is his big hammer. But you just choose one because they're non-extra attacked. It doesn't need to specify that you choose one profile because that's just how melee attacks work. You always choose one profile. So he either swings with Graviton Strikes for attacks at strength 10, AP 2 for 4 flat damage. The AP characteristics are a little bit sad there, but I don't know, hitting on 2s for 4 damage, anti-monster, anti-vehicle 3. Dude hits like a truck. He's going to kill some folks with that. I love that it's anti-monster, anti-vehicle 3, and strength 10. Obviously, that helps against like strength T10 plus, but it does mean that he's already naturally wooting you on 3s in a lot of cases anyway. He also has a sweep profile, 8 attacks at 722, or I guess not and he also punches you. So he has an extra attack gauntlet that's strength 6, AP 2, 1 damage. It's only 2 attacks though, so it's actually not really that relevant unless you have a guy like left on 1 and then he can punch it and kill it and then he can hit you with the hammer. So like gives him a little bit of utility against heavy infantry.
Briong 6,931 donated $5 through Super Chat. He's just a dude.
Just
Great
a dude.
and delve with deep strike.
Just a dude.
Okay, another detachments. I don't think people realize how durable he is though.
Yeah, I think I mean there's some. It depends on cost. I mean, basically all the data sheets that they have been showcasing here depend a lot on cost. If he's not crazy expensive, which honestly he might be, I don't know. It's a lot of abilities on, it's a lot of good things, right? We got extra attacks, we got a 4 flat damage melee attack, we got a 4+ fail pain, we got sustain hits 1. This ability is sort of a nothing burger, but it is what it is. There's like a part of me that's like they're going to cost a bit like 110 points. He's not going to be that great, but if he's not crazy expensive, there are so many lists that just have those 2x5 Chthonian Berserks in Sagitors, and have a Sword Sagittor having a transport capacity of 6, so you can plop this guy in with one of those units, and he just improves their output. I think I don't know. I think it's gonna be pretty solid in a lot of lists if you have the points left over to take him. Him with 5 Chthonian Berserks does seem legitimately scary, especially because here's the thing: he doesn't need +1 to hit. One downside of Chthonian Berserks is that they are so wildly inconsistent on their attack profiles because they're all fucking 4+ weapon skill, dude. They all hit on 4s, those idiots. Or at least the big mauls do. Well, I think no, they all hit on 4s. It's just whether they have anti-monster, anti-vehicle is the question, or twin linked if they have fists, if they're fisty boys. But he hits on 2s all the time, so it doesn't matter what segment you're in. It doesn't matter about whether you're fighting on objectives. He's always just going to hit on 2s, and if he's his ability, I didn't even notice this chat. The status sheet's actually getting better the more I read it. I was like, he has a leadership ability for sustained hits 1. No. He just has sustained hits 1. So you don't have to run him with a unit. He leads Chthonian Berserks. He gives them sustained hits, which is equivalent to +1. But you actually don't need it. He can just hit something with an axe. So he might be good by himself, honestly. Like, there's a lot of cases where this guy is just better than 5 Chthonian Berserks. They attack 3 times more than he does, but he gets +2 to hit. Basically +3. He should, in theory, on average, he should 100% convert. Even better if you like blow a command reroll on a hit roll or something. He basically averages like 5 or 6 hits with a 4 damage weapon. God damn. He has a 5+ invulnerable save. He has a 4+ fail to pay with 5 wounds. So you have to do equivalent of 10 damage to kill him. Plus he gets this heroic intervention thing, that's fine. I mean, it's nice to have sometimes, but it comes up once every like 18 games or something where your opponent actually lets you heroically intervene for free. I do wonder, like, this ability is like, it's so limited in its use case. I do wonder, I think part of it is like the fact that heroic intervention is kind of a busted strat. And so people always play around it constantly. So any ability that buffs your heroic intervention doesn't really do that well. Although it gives you like rapid ingress and heroic interventions in Delve Shift Assault, but he doesn't fight first. So your opponent gets to hit his unit first. I don't know. I guess they fight on death, right? So it's probably fine. So maybe it's okay. In any case, I think she's actually solid. He's between 6 and 10 attacks with sustained hits built in. He's kind of difficult to kill. And if you want to, you can buff a unit with him. I'm in. The Delve Deep Strike is keyworded Chthonian Berserks. Fortunately, chat, he can attach to Chthonian Berserks. It is easy to give him Deep Strike in that detachment because that's just what he leads. So you just put him with 5 dudes and then you can hop him in and free intervene somewhere. So anyway, chat, I don't know. I think this guy's pretty cool. I'm hoping he's not like 120 points or something. I hope he comes in. He feels like a 90 to me. We'll see. Maybe an 80. I guess it's like 90. 90 feels like probably where he's going to be at. I could see him coming at like lower and then he's just amazing. But I do feel like they tend to play pretty safe with Votan points values a lot of times. So, I think this guy rules. I think he's cool. I think he's cool and stuff. I imagine that he's gonna hop in. Iron Here Champion is 70. Iron Here Champion is dramatically worse than this guy, though. Like, let's be real. That dude has 3 attacks. Like, real talk. I think this guy's better than Iron Here Champion. Maybe I'm huff and paint because he doesn't do mortal wounds of the charge, but I do feel like this guy is way better. The closest, like, you compare him to a lot of like Space Marine characters is where I like to put him, and it's like a Space Marine captain's like 85, right? A Space Marine captain is 80. For like 8 2 damage melee attacks with devastating. And a free strat. I feel like a captain is probably a pretty similar to what they want. So that would be like 80-ish points, 85 points maybe. That would be really cool if that's where he was at. Anyway, chat. Pretty good stuff. Delve strats or Chthonian Berserk keyworded, so you can't use him solo. But you just put him with Chthonian. If you're playing Delve Ship Assault, you just put him with Chthonian Berserks. But in other detachments, right, we're playing fucking Needguard Oathband or some shit. We don't super need this guy to be in Chthonian Berserks unless we want to buff them. So he could run solo if you wanted to. Or Mercenary Oathband. You rock him in, give him reroll once they hit. He goes crazy.
Edriong 6931 donated $2 through Super Chat. What about Belial? How many Belials is he worth?
How many Belials? How many points is Belial? 85? Fucking, he's 85 points. Chat, this datasheet is so bad. This datasheet makes me cringe so hard. At least he's 6 attacks. At least he has 6 attacks precision. I guess. And then just a blank set of datasheets. Datasheet abilities. And he's slower. And he's easier to kill. Bro. You get absolutely mogged by Barrack Stornbrow. Belial, you piece of shit. That's good stuff, chat. That's funny. Dude, compare the twos. Barrack's sweep profile dramatically outperforms Belial's regular attacks. And that's his alternate profile he will use less often. Honestly, this is great. 8 attacks, 7/2/2. That's actually phenomenal. Especially you play him in like Mercenary Oathband, you give him wood rerolls with that shit. Fuck. He just starts beating down Space Marine bodies left and right. Dude, he's like constructed explicitly for Mercenary Oathband. Wound rerolls and reroll ones to hit, odd and sustained hits 1. Sure, man. That sounds good. Seems solid. That seems pretty cool. All right, chat. Let's move on, and we will talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about some silly discussions on the internets. So here's the first one. We're gonna start in kind of soft. I just found some random threads that I want to talk about. Some of them are kind of old, but this is a good one to cleanse our palate, get us ready for the real meat of the episode. This is by Sir Yeetsalot 2467. Incredible username, no notes. I played a game this Friday, so this is a year ago, so this was likely Q1 2025 when Legion of Excess was fucking nuts. It was everywhere. It won everything. It was like Necrons are right now. And it was just like, oh my god, can we go like 6 seconds without hearing about Legion of Excess at least one time? So I've seen this happen sometimes where people go like, oh man, this list is so broken, dude. This list is so good. And then someone who is maybe not that familiar with the game goes, oh, okay, it's really broken. So it must have all these crazy rules. And then they like get that in their head and they just start making shit up. I've seen this a million times where they're like, well, yeah, that's why they say this is so broken. Cause like, every number is so big. Everything hits for 1 million damage and can't die. And you're like, no. The reason it's actually good is it has like marginally above curve damage output. It has a downside from its detached ability because you lose fight first when you charge is the ability. And it used to give you full hit and wound rerolls if you did that. So you would just basically like full convert all your attacks. Now it was a lot of slash demon attacks. So their attacks on general were okay. They weren't amazing, but they were okay. But it turns out when you full hit and wound reroll literally everything from your entire army all game, it's really good. And then the detachment had a bunch of ways to offset the loss of fights first. They had fights on death from, I think it's the Hellflayer character had a fights on death aura. They had like -1s to hit, -1s to wound. They could wound pass between units. So there's like a million ways to offset it. So that was what the deal was. It was like a relatively fast army. It hit super hard in melee and it had a lot of like activation control in the fight phase. If you were bad, you probably would die because it's like a bunch of 5+ invuln saves. But you can understand that people will be like, well, the internet tells me this is really broken, so I think it's got all this shit. So here we go. Sir Yitzalat's playing against the guy. They're running Legion of Excess, and their army consisted of 3 Soul Grinders, 3 Keepers of Secrets, Shalaxi Hellbane, and 1 of the Slanesh Chariots. That was probably a, I think the Hellflare, probably. During the game, I caught them trying to use multiple stratagems and abilities that didn't exist, such as a stratagem where a Keeper of Secrets auto-explodes for 6 mortal wounds. Okay. Keeper of Secrets healing for every model that they killed. Now there is that one might be legit. There is a way to heal in Legion. If you take Soul Glutton, you heal if you kill a model, but that one's easy to get confused with. I'll just put my little reader up here so we can follow along. That one is really easy to get confused with the other almost but not quite identical enhancement from Demonic Incursion. So here's Soul Glutton from Legion of Excess, but if we pop over to Incursion, we can see that the there it is. The Wit Stealer sword, or the Soul Stealer, gives you basically like a persistent chance to regen every time you kill a model. So the Soul Glutton on the actual Legion of Excess detachment heals once if you killed anyone. Soul Stealer heals you maybe every time you kill someone. If you get those two things confused because they are similar enhancements in similar detachments with similar names and similar effects that do very slightly different things, I understand it. I get it. First of all, learn your fucking rules, but also I get you. You know what? I get it. I understand. I understand how you could fuck that up. Command rerolling all failed saves. This is a classic. One of my favorites. They say, well, it says re-roll the dice roll. The dice roll I just rolled was 7 invulnerable saves because you fast diced your attacks. So when I command re-roll, I get to re-roll all of those. No, that's not how that works at all. Each of those individual saves is a re-roll. You do not get to re-roll all of them. A couple other things that bugged me after the game, which was a complete beatdown. I brought Tau with a balance of anti-armor, anti-tank. I got steamrolled in half my list. Couldn't scratch demons. Classic demons. Also, if your opponent's just like healing a million wounds and rerolling all their saves, yeah, that is something. I looked up a bunch of rules for demons after the game. I found a massive number of rules that were messed up. Here's a list of stuff I found. My opponent ran Soul Grinders as if they were T12. They're T11. All right, man. They ran Keepers of Secrets as if they were T12. They're T10. Brother. They're -1 to hit. And they have a field note, or they used to have a field note ban because their shield used to give them a field note ban, but they changed all that to give it an armor save instead. So they were unironically difficult to kill. You run them as T12, though, and they just show up Great Unclean Ones so hard. Great Unclean Ones are like, I'm T12 with a 6-up field note ban. And you're of a 5-up? What the heck, dude? And you're move 14, you literally double my movement and have like 10 attacks? What the heck, man? Poor Great Unclean Ones. That's unhinged. Soul Grinders, it's a 160 mil base model. It's fucking huge. I get it. Keepers of Secrets, bro. The little skinny lady in the Chaos Demons army. T12, my guy. Their Soul Grinders supposedly hit on 2s. All their weapons hit on 3s instead. I don't believe that there's any hit bonus things in. There's reroll hits in Legion of Excess, but I don't believe that there are any bonuses to hit. And you can give sustained hits with one of the characters in an aura, but you can't give +1 to hit. He used Soul Grinders and Keepers with their 4+ with a 5+ final pen, which isn't on their data sheet. In fairness, Keepers did have a 5+ final pen on their data sheets. That was from a War Gear option that you had to select. So in fairness, there's one of them that they did get. They lost that, though, as we said, their shield used to give them the 5+ failed up pay. Now it gives them a 3+ armor save, dramatically worse. And that's one of the reasons that Keepers just fell off the radar. As soon as that change got made, people were like, oh, okay. So occasionally they have +1 to save, but they also just take like 25% more, 30% more damage from everything. Okay, I'm out of here. Shalaxi had a 4+ feel no pain. Yep, nope, she had a 5. That's not correct. Claims keepers have -1 to hit aura for models within 6 inches. That's not right, but what's the beast called? Fucking holy shit, I can't remember. I don't remember. The beastie ones they did have that. I think it affects like leadership just now, but it used to give -1 to hit within 6 inches. If he had any of those, then that might have been a confusion there. It does happen occasionally where you're like, you assume your opponent's talking about abilities on one data sheet, but they messed that up. He didn't say that they played any of those things. What are they called? I'm gonna kill myself now. The beastie guys with the extra legs. They are. You'd think I didn't play this faction, but I definitely do. Fiends of Slaanesh. Yeah, it was Fiends. If they played Fiends, the Fiends used to give a big -1 to hit aura, but not anymore. Now they give -1 to desperate breakout checks. Cool, man. How far the mighty have fallen. In fairness, they were kind of broken, so it's okay. I couldn't even find the chariot rules in the app, but seeing all the rules issues I found, I already doubt it has a feel no pain. Yeah, there's a million chariot models it could have had. So I don't know about that one. But this is a great one. T12 Keepers of Secrets chance. Classic. That's a lot of rules to be innocent mistakes. Was my opponent just forgetting rules, using old rules, or flat out cheating? I love this comment. This is half the reason I included this thread, chat. Kenken2K2 said that's not even cheating anymore. That's living in La La Land where he homebrews everything. There's no auto deadly demise in any chaos demon detachment and no auto 6 deadly demise. Closest one is the Legion of Blood enhancement where you deadly demise on a 2+ for D3 +3. Keeper Secret Healing on every model kill. This enhancement from Demonic Incursion, but only on a 4+. You can't command reroll more than 1 save in each phase. Closest Demonic Incursion detachment where you reroll save of 1 in opponent's shooting phase. Yeah. Can't comment on Soul Grinder because you'd never used them before. They're definitely T11. Keeper's Secrets were never T12. Keeper's -1 to hit ability only applies to itself. Chariots were legended. I highly doubt he's playing with the correct rules. Even if you guys allowed legended units. Yeah, it could also have been like the Torment Bringer or the Hellflayer. There's a million different chariot data sheets in Slaaneshi demons. So pretty wild. Pretty wild, chat. T24 Great Unclean Ones. I agree with that. I think that I 100% agree. Bring back Ed. We need old Ed when everything wins him on 6s. That's what we want. Otherwise, we'll riot. We got one more. One more kind of similar one to that from earlier this year. And then we will transition into new player stuff. My local game store is refusing to deal with a cheater. Good. That's good to hear. My local game store has a great community with one notable exception. We'll call him Known Cheat, or KC. KC has seemingly done every dirty trick in the book, but our attempts to ask the store owner, store owner, to do something about it fall on deaf ears. Most recently, KC attempted to move models while O was looking up a rule at their table. When he was playing the store owner? Oh, no. They asked the store owner for a ruling? This throws me. And I guess it depends on the level of investment of the store owner. But every time they're like, you're a figure of authority in our casual game in a game store. What is the rule for this? And the store owners are typically they're salespeople, right? At the end of the day, most store owners are people who are interested in the hobby, but not necessarily hyper enfranchised in any one particular game, because generally speaking, they are business people first and foremost. And so it's always funny to me when you ask the store owner, hey, how does this rule work? And if the store owner is not a very established tournament organizer or somebody who plays all the time, which oftentimes they're not, why would they know? I don't. You learn more by looking up the rule yourself, in my opinion, rather than asking someone. I guess I don't know the exact situation here, but that is always funny to me when you're like, hey, man, you're the store owner. Can you rule on this thing? And they're like, bro, I play Magic the Gathering. I don't know what to tell you, man. That happens more often than not. Like, I guess I'll look it up, but I haven't played 40K since 6th edition. Like, well, that's not really going to help us, but thank you. If you want to, I think asking them for like measurements and stuff makes total sense to me. But like rules, oftentimes, unless they are very knowledgeable, I think you are better off looking it up yourself, and then you learn how, like, where in the rules to look things up in the future. So Casey attempted to move models while the owner was looking up a rule at their table. When Casey was called out by their opponent, O made no attempts to discipline the play. Meanwhile, Casey has been a known quantity at other stores, but has been banned from all of them for cheating. Many people at the store who would otherwise play in tournaments have actively been avoiding these events purely because of Casey. That's always problematic. That gets tough. When you start to be hesitant to go to events because of individual players. I've certainly had people in local communities that I felt this way about. And I have like pinged tournament organizers and be like, hey man, I don't want to interact with this person if I go to your tournament. And I think they get the idea. Like, the best way to do it is to bring it up with them. And especially as someone who largely goes to tournaments for, or largely goes to game stores to play in tournaments. As soon as it starts to become a problem where people begin to like request not to play against that particular person, they know who to keep an eye out for. Similarly, people at the store have been having anxiety about speaking with the owner about rules questions, despite the owner being the head TO because of his handling of KC. When players took their concerns to the owner, they were brushed off, stating that he was not interested in handling incredibly stupid fucking drama. My brother in Christ, a game store lives and dies on its community. The drama within that community is not irrelevant to you. Brother, you need to consider your business and people returning to it in order to play and participate. Interesting. However, there is one inciting incident that leads me here. One of the players has been a leader of the community from within, helping to coordinate a lot of us to play and get better at the game. This player, or CG for cool guy, he comes in wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket and spiked hair, bro, has been particularly vocal against KC and has been working hard to undo a lot of the negative stigma that KC has caused by helping coach newer players and ease them into competitive play. Last night, cool guy informed several members of the community that owner had banned him from the store. What? Not Casey, the cheater guy. Myself and many other members of the community were shocked and appalled. So my question is, how do I deal with the store that refuses to deal with a known cheater? I hate to up and abandon the store. Out of everyone I met through the store, Casey's literally the only player I would not want to see across the table next to me at the bar. But at the same time, I feel like playing at the store will only encourage his behaviors. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think like you do have to cut it loose, dude. A lot of times what will happen is when this sort of stuff occurs, and I've been at game stores and gaming communities where this has happened. This kind of stuff has happened where the owner is just ends up refusing to act in a competent manner about something, and it could be something stupid like this, or it could be something very much more serious. But a lot of times the community will find other ways to play. Sometimes you can find like other local haunts to go to, whether that's a game store, and sometimes obviously there are a limited number of game stores in an area, so it's tough to do that. Or you find people's houses that you can meet at, and so you can like retain the core group of people. That can help. I've also found that occasionally you can like facilitate game nights at board game cafes. That was something that a couple of community members and I did after we had a falling out with the store that we usually go to. We actually started doing like weekly or bi-weekly nights at a board game cafe, and basically they were like okay with us setting up the big 40K stuff as long as we essentially had like a minimum purchase for everybody. I think everyone had to spend like $20 or something at the bar. So like you go and you get drinks and you get food or whatever, and then you get to play 40K and not be in the horrible game store that nobody liked. But unfortunately, it seems like that the store owner is really just kind of flippant about their community, and the only way that is repaired would be for the community to leave, right? And that sucks, and it is what it is. But like, as I said before, the community of a game store is integral to its business. And if the owner does not want to make decisions that are conducive to that community playing and having a good time there, then maybe they don't deserve to have it, which is, super tough. If you don't get rid of these people, they will keep going back because they know they can get away. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The other thing too is like, you don't necessarily have to ban them. I think a lot of times stores don't have like, they don't want to address these situations until they come to a head, but it is not unreasonable in many cases to like ban them from competitions or like organized play and stuff like that, and I think that like gives them a kick in the butt. It feels like a lot of times stores like because they don't want to handle stupid drama, they will not address the situation at all until a player gets banned. And sometimes you can just be like, hey man, you're like causing people not to attend tournaments, so we're not going to allow you to register for our tournaments or our leagues in the future. If you want to play at the store, that's fine, but like until I see an improvement of your behavior, you aren't allowed to play in organized play. And then one thing that we'll do is it will sort of give a kick in the butt to these players to improve their behavior. But doing literally nothing and banning the guy who's like calling them out is definitely not the wrong way to be, especially someone who's actively fostering your community and demoing for new players. Like that is the way that you make money as a game store, is that those people continue to build their armies and buy more miniatures and things. But having someone who is like, people who will coach and teach new players are so solid gold for the tabletop gaming community. Tabletop games, like miniature games, are so complex and difficult to get into that people like this are like the beating heart and soul of how these communities survive. If you don't have these people, your community, your store, your game dies. And banning them because they're starting drama for calling out the people who suck to play against is a really good way to not get any more new players and not make any more money. I don't get it, chat. Get a petition. Oh yeah, that'll work. I don't know. I think the guy who's like, this is stupid drama is not going to be swayed by a petition. Yeah. This won't work. Thanks, Darth Mick. Yeah, everybody's basically saying take your business elsewhere. Yeah, which I think is definitely fair. You have to community ban him, just refuse to play. So the reason I'm talking about this thread in this video is that transition us into like sort of the next point. But a lot of times what happens is if you're like, oh, the in-group will not play against him. But especially if we've already lost our demo guy, right? Then new players or new people to the community hop in and go, they go to the Discord and they go, oh, I'd like to play a game. And this guy goes immediately, oh, I'll play a game with you. Because like no one else will play him. He'll play against a newer player and he'll fuck him up really bad. Right. That happens constantly. The people who don't want to play or are shunned or are kind of pariahs to the I would say more competitive but more enfranchised community within that game store, the people who know the how the community works, those people become like predators for brand new people to that community, and so they can actually do a lot of work to turn away other people. Now I'm not saying that you should play against them, but I am saying that does become kind of a problem. That's why you need people like this who are willing to teach new people, but obviously banning them is a really good way to immediately destroy your own community. So it is what it is. Surfer Topherberger had somebody cheat in a learner's league by tailoring lists. The store owner banned him. The band player called you all nasty, horrible people. Yeah, that is frustrating, especially if that's not like the idea of the league, right? To some extent, I know, I don't know. I haven't participated in league play in fucking ages, but I know that there is to some extent a little bit of list tailoring in those, because usually you play a different list every round. And then like your opponent's faction. You don't necessarily know what they're playing, but you know their opponent's faction. But if you show up to the table and you're like, oh, what's you got over there? You got 2 Riptide battle suits and some stealth suits. Oh, okay. Like takes models off their tray and puts different models on. Like, go fuck yourself, dude. That sucks. But if you're like, oh, I know I'm playing against Tau this route, then yeah, let's see what you do. Definitely encountered a pub stopper in the TTS Discord. Yeah, they just exist. We had a situation like arise recently in my Discord where somebody accused someone of doing that. They didn't really want to give out a lot of details, so we didn't end up going anywhere with it. But I do have, just for clarity, chats in my community online. If you play in my community, I do have a sportsmanship form. I will show you where it is. A sportsmanship report form. It's for any infraction. Support sportsmanship or whatever. It's all there. And it's right here. So if we go to my Discord and we go to the rules and resources tab, there's a link right here. If you go to this link, if you have problems with people in the community, if you're a new player and you play against somebody who's like a dickhead, or they're, they're just doing stuff that's not above board, and they're being mean and they're not really like being very helpful within the game, you can submit an anonymous form, or you can submit a form. It won't be anonymous, unfortunately, because we do want to be able to track all of the incidents. Obviously, your name won't be used in any, if any action gets taken, but internally, it'll be there. However, you can submit a report against another player, and then we'll review it and take action if necessary. So I highly recommend that. Honestly, I think every community should have this just as a tool to use, and then you can document any of these things that happen. So if you go like, oh, I played against a guy and he did all this stuff. He was moving my models while I was looking up or whatever. If your community should have a resource like that so that your people can document it. And 90% of the time, it's going to be like, I had a bad day and I had a bad game and it was what it was. But if you start to see, you get 3 or 4 mentioned from different people about playing this guy and he did shady stuff on the table, and suddenly you have a form that's really easy to fill out that you're getting a bunch of this feedback from, that is pretty decent grounds to kick someone. So I think that those are important tools to have. But if you play against somebody in my Discord and they are being a dickhead to you, especially if you're a new player, let me know. Submit to the form and it will be documented. And then at the very least, I'll probably have a talk with them. If at the worst, they might get booted from the community. We will see. All right, chance. Tailoring lists, you submitted everything on BCP in advance, and then on the day, he just play a random list. What the fuck? Well, you can't do that. That is just straight up cheating. That's so much worse. What the fuck? Terrible. That's terrible. All right. Let's move on. This thread, we are getting closer to the thing, to the heart of the issue, but this is a little bit of the opposite. This is kind of from the person who is beating the new player. But I appreciate the tone of this thread. I think it's fun. All right, ready. Bevamsotopy asks, how do I get my friend to stop sucking? Brutal. We are gloves off. This man is just taking his friend out back. I've been playing for about a year, and I got my friend to join me. It seems like that means that his friend is much newer than he is. In that time, I've got a fairly decent hang of the game, but they seem to be completely content with me remembering their rules for them, and I practically pilot their army for them. It's annoying enough when we're facing each other, but in our 2v2 escalation league, it's especially an issue. Dude, this always happens in 2v2s. Oh, man. It's such a meme, but it's so true that 2v2 40k, duos 40k is just one person playing on each side and other two people just hanging out. That's like how it happens every time. I have not played a 2v2 game in probably 10 years, but that's definitely how it works. They play a Dark Kraken's Forgefather Seekers list. In one match, they forgot that Outriders are faster than infantry and only moved them 18 inches the entire game. That is a problem. You do pay for a movement of characteristic of 12. I still have to remind them that everything in their army does not move 6 inches. That's OG 40k. Like way back in the day, just every model moved 6 inches all the time. They have never remembered that their detachment roll gives them assaults and plus 1 strength within 12 inches. This says 12 feet, but I assume he means inches. When they measure, they reach out their arm as far as possible and then extend the tape measurer towards them instead of extending the tape measurer away from them. No, this is not somehow more convenient to them. They are just defaulting to making this harder for no reason. So they measure. They reach out as far as possible. I'm trying to like consider how this works mechanically. They reach out their arm as far as possible, and then they extend the tape measure towards them instead of extending it away from them. So they take the tape measure and they measure from the opponent's model. That's fascinating. That doesn't change anything. I mean, it just might be how you want to do it. And I mean, like, let's just let them measure how they want, I guess. Like, as long as it's accurate, fucking who cares? Who cares how you measure? You want to draw cubits on your arm and then measure with that? It's probably bad and not accurate, so maybe don't do that. But like, I don't know, it's probably fine. I tattooed a tape measure on my hand. I use that for measurement. That does seem very inconvenient, though. I get it, but I don't know if it's necessarily pertinent to the discussion. They never use stratagems, and they end every game with full command points. That one is easy to do. You're just like, I forgot, man. It's like I have 12 extra things to think about. I can't even remember the movement characteristic of my models. And I have like a million extra command points and things to think about. I will consider. I still have to tell them that they have to use melee weapons in the fight phase instead of ranged weapons. And that attacks I make in the fight phase are going into the unit that they're next to and not a random unit. Sounds like this guy's just not paying attention. Like, I don't know. He's pretty just on his phone, maybe. They will ask me what their saves are when I shoot them. And in 2v2s, they will expectantly turn to me to tell them their saves while I'm already rolling my own saves from another player's attacks. My brother in Christ, you are playing Space Marines. It's a 3+ save. I guarantee. And Forgefather Seekers, if it's not your Land Raider, it is a 3+ save. Like everything in that faction has a 3+ save. That can't be that hard. Worst of all, if I tell them to check their own data sheets for stats instead of asking, they will occasionally just make stuff up. Oh, geez. All right. Well, can't just do that. For example, I asked how many dice they roll for hazardous chests, and they say 1. I asked them to read what the rules said to me verbatim, and they told me it said you roll 1 dice. Yeah, per hazardous weapon. Another time, how many hazardous weapons do they have? He might be right. Is he shooting an assault intercessor squad that has 1 plasma pistol? How many tests do you roll? Well, you roll 1 test. I don't know. Another time, I told them Outriders were wounded by a shot at -4 AP, and they asked their save. They said it was 5 up without hesitation, despite Outriders having a 3+ save and no invulnerable save. I know they're not cheating, but I'm torn between whether they're just a little dumb, brutal, dude, or just saying something completely wrong because letting me correct them is easier than looking at their data sheets. They've told me time and time again that they do enjoy playing the game. Bro, I think they just like spending time with you, my guy. I don't know if they like care that much about the game. I think it's very clear that they do not care that much about the game. I think they just like hanging out with their friend. I want to be real. I think you just have a stan who enjoys chilling with you, and the game is ancillary. And they're not doing it just because I make them, but that leaves the question of how do I get them to learn from their rules instead of learning on me. I've tried just telling them to read their rules and data sheets when they ask, but they just panic and make stuff up. I've tried quizzing them on rules in the past, but that felt too much like my dad yelling multiplication tables at me when helping with my math homework in 3rd grade. Almost certainly the vibe, 100%. I mean... I just watched the other day, by the way, John. I just watched the Netflix Frankenstein movie they just did with Oscar Isaac. And there's a scene where Charles Dance is like this imperious dad, and he's got a switch, and he's quizzing his kid, and every time they say it right, he raps him with the switch. And that's the vibe I get. He's like, what's your save characteristic? He's like, 5 plus? Like, no, look again. It's a 3. Everything in your army is a 3. I don't want to make the game less fun for them by drilling onto their rules and smugly refusing to remind them, but I'm at my wit's end trying to figure out how to get them to actually learn the game and avoid enabling them. It's an interesting question. Here's what I think happened. I think Bavamso has been playing for about a year and got their friend in recently. Bavamso fucking loves 40K. He's so in. He's all in. And he spent all this time preparing an army and learning the game and getting ready. And then it sounds like he got his friend to join him more recently and expects his friend to have a similar baseline of rules knowledge as he does. But he doesn't, because he's had a year. Now, I'm reading into this a little bit, and I hope that this is what they're saying here, because that's kind of what it sounds like. But what it sounds like to me is that your friend doesn't have the same level of like commitment or maybe like rules sort of based knowledge. And what you need to do is get them started at smaller points levels and then ramp them up. Play some combat patrol games with them, man, and be like, hey, I'm not helping you. We're gonna teach you how to learn your rules. And then that's going to be where it is. And it feels to me like he's expecting a lot from somebody who maybe doesn't have the same level of experience. That's someone who just wants to hang out, 100%. It's also important to note that like maybe 40K is not their thing, and then maybe they just want to chill with you. Maybe you can play board games. Like, I don't know. Warhammer 40,000 is an incredibly complex game system for someone who's not hyper-enfranchised. And if they don't want to learn, you can just be like, hey, man, you just want to go to the bar? Like, fuck it. What are we doing here? I think we all know people who like this who are like kind of scatterbrained when it comes to their rules. And it does sound to me like I think we're exaggerating a little bit and for dramatic effect in the thread here a little. But it does feel to me it's like where this is someone who really wants or really should be sort of getting the baseline and like learning to love the mechanical experience of playing the game and like executing the mechanics properly. But you need to do that at a small scale, and playing like duos games where there's 4 armies on the table with like, honestly, real talk, Forge Father Seekers is not like the simplest army to learn right off the bat. I think we start with combat patrol and then we move to a nice Gladius task force, where we're like, I just have a bunch of abilities that do normal stuff, right? We're not playing this keyword focused, very specific composition. I think we just play some 1v1 combat patrols, my dude, and smooth the game out. And at the end of the day, if they're comfortable with the small points level, maybe they just want to play small points level games. Maybe they don't want to play a full 2,000 point game. Or 2 1,000 point armies with different mechanics fighting against 2 different 1,000 point armies with different mechanics, which is like, honestly, in some cases more complex than playing just a regular game. Stormland's better than Gladius? I can see that. Sure. Fuck it. Especially if you're running Outriders. It said he had Outriders. So if you just play Outriders, well, who cares? It doesn't really matter. Play anything. Play Bastion Task Force. No, don't do that. That one's kind of confusing too. Gladius is like interesting because I think it is the new player detachment because it lets you do whatever you want, right? It's like so flexible. You can play any of your models in your collection. They're all good. But the downside is that it does, the doctrine mechanic is complex for people to get a handle on. the first time you play. Definitely have friends who play a few times a year, and to them it's more about hanging out than the game itself. Yeah, and I think that's the vibe I get. So I think, I don't know, go easy on your buddy here, Bavamsotopy, and play some combat patrols. Play some 1v1 combat patrols, and then just teach your opponent or teach your friend where to find their stats and stuff. And then I think that would help him a lot more. And it will probably also teach him if, playing these bigger games is actually what he wants to do. And that was an interesting one. Sounds like an AOS player they're making. Brutal chat. He doesn't deserve that. Topi friend is, he deserves more than that. All right. All right. Let's talk about Let's Go Fishing 91 from 2 weeks ago. Kind of a new one. Kind of a new thing. A new thread. I was playing a game of 40k today with someone who refuses to read the rules. Kind of a similar discussion to what we had previously. I taught them the basics of the game and have corrected them as often as I can when issues come up in both their games with me and with others. There have been multiple times when they've been told they can't do something, and then they try to do it again in a different game. This is basically the same thing that we just discussed. There have been multiple times where they've been told they can't do something, and then they try to do it again in a different game. Why would you do that again? Okay. Well, that does feel a little intentional. I don't know about that. If they've already been told they can't do something. But the important thing is point out to people where in the rules it says they can't do that. I think that's a big thing that's happening here in a lot of these threads is a refusal to teach people where they can learn these things for themselves. Because in the previous thread we just talked about, right? This guy's like, oh, I don't know what my saves are, but my friend will tell me. I was like, no. You look here on the data sheet. It's right there. So you just like keep your card in front of you, and then when you look at the save, then and eventually you'll learn those by heart. And it's a similar thing here. It's like, well, you tell somebody they can't do something, and they'll be like, why? Can you show me where that says that? And then now they know. And if they do it again, even though you've shown them the rule, I get it. But if they're just going on someone just telling them about mechanics, then I could see that not really becoming internalized. Or they try to make the rules apply in situations where they normally wouldn't. For instance, stating that a unit fully in the open would get the benefit of cover from my unit shooting at him from inside a ruin. Again, just not him reading the rules. I get that one though, to some extent, because it works if. There's a weird conceptual thing with, it's the train rules in 10th edition, honestly. They're not very good. But because you get the benefit of cover, if any part of your unit has its line of sight blocked by terrain features, the unit standing inside a ruin could potentially be granting cover to the target. That's not unreasonable. And I get why you would think this. If you are new, they've been playing for 6 months, and it seems clearly that they don't necessarily have an amazing grasp of the mechanics. And you tell them, oh, you get cover because my sergeant is inside this ruin and can't see you, which are the cover rules, by the way. If you have a model that can't see the target because of a ruin terrain feature, the entire target unit gains cover, which is fucking crazy. Then they would interpret that as saying, yes, because you're in a ruin, everything you shoot at, attacks back and forth get cover. No. Only in that one particular instance. But you have to teach them the intricacies of the rules. So I get criticism sometimes, just as an aside, about being bloviating a lot about the rules and just talking at length, yapping about rules. And a lot of times it's because if you don't put all those addendums into a discussion about 40K's rules, because 40K's rules loves yes, but statements, right? They love to their rules are basically here's a mechanic. If your line of sight is blocked, you get cover or whatever. But in these other instances, a different thing could happen. And if you don't discuss those, this exact thing happens where people go, oh, I don't necessarily understand the entirety of the rule, so I play it wrong and I apply it incorrectly because they haven't been told the full context, which is why I always go way too far when discussing rules, why I always talk too much about it. In this particular game, their unit charged one of my units that was just off an objective and rolled high enough that all their models could have gotten base to base with my models, since they'd have to. But the player didn't do it, so they could keep one model on the objective. Also, this is like, I don't know, to some extent, this is like a little bit weird. Like, Let's Go Fishing 91's like, I taught them the rules, and now they got the rules wrong. Are they cheating? And you're like, well, you taught them. My brother in Christ. Did you teach them wrong? I don't know. To some extent, that's a little bit of a self-report. I'm not going to say anything, but like, that's a strange criticism to have of someone who you taught the rules to. I taught the rules to somebody and they don't understand the rules. Well, maybe we should try that again, my guy. In this particular game, their unit charged one of my units that was just off an objective and rolled high enough that all of their models could have gotten into base to base with my models, since they'd have to. Well, yes, but only if when moving each of the individual models, they can do so. This is where all these weird idiosyncrasies come in. If you can maneuver your charging unit so that you can base block the landing zones of the models that are coming in, you can make it so one model can stay on the objective. I think he's trying to do it again. And he's trying to recreate that interaction. And his opponent here isn't understanding what's entirely happening. And it sounds like might not necessarily have the entire interpretation of the rules correctly. Which they would have to do if they, which they wouldn't have been able to do, keeping one model objective, which they wouldn't have been able to do if they used the correct charge rules. I corrected them, and they refused to play it correctly because they'd be off the objective, so I ended the game because I refused to play with a cheater. My dude, you taught this person how to play. As I was packing up, they said there's always some new rule with me. Although I've shown them or read the rules to them each time it's come up and even corrected myself when I've been wrong. And when I asked, I mean, in fairness, there's always some new rule with 40K in general, my dude. And when asked how many times that I've been told that specific rule before, when asked how many times that I've told them that specific rule before, I misread it. Including in our last 1v1 game, their response was not a lot, which I find funny because I shouldn't have to tell them more than once. I mean, I guess so, but sometimes you forget stuff. It's safe to say at this point, I've lost my temper. They refused to play correctly and then tried playing the victim when called out on it and turned around acting like I was the problem. I have a very low viewpoint of people who pull that, and I won't tolerate it. They've been known to prioritize winning over good sportsmanship, and almost every time they lose, they get pissy and throw a temper tantrum. According to them, they're just kidding. No adult they've ever known has just kidded about throwing a temper tantrum. All right. Then they've had the nerve to tell me they thought we were friends, and because they're such a forgiving person, if I wanted to apologize, they'd accept it. All right. It sounds like two people who do not necessarily mesh as personalities. I won't be playing with them anymore, as I'm not going to tolerate that toxic victim mentality for someone who refuses to play the game correctly. But it brought a question to mind. I have no doubt that him refusing to play the actual rules so he could keep the objective was cheating. But do you all consider someone refusing to sit down and actually read or learn the rules for themselves cheating, or just being a bad gamer? I'm so interested in this thread, in the comment section of this thread. Note, since it's been mentioned a couple times, I'm well aware that it is possible to boot block your own models to keep them from having to be base to base with your opponent's models. That was not something he could have done in this instance. Okay. Well, fair enough, I guess. I do think that it's probably something that has come up. It sounds like to me, I'm just, third partying here, only reading what's the text on the page. It sounds to me like this person has had kind of like rule manipulations, and maybe by this guy, right? If they play against play with each other a lot, like this guy's doing like all the charge manipulation, line of sight stuff all the time. Oh, well, I'm gonna get cover from your unit shooting because that one intercessor can only see like this one guy, so everyone gets cover. And so the opponent is like internalized that, being like we talked about before. Okay, so that means that if you're in a building, the opponent gets cover because of line of sight stuff, and they don't really understand why. They just take the rule as like on its face. Or, for example, I'm going to base block so that I don't have to base and then I have to move. And the other person goes, okay, I don't really understand how that works, but I'll do that too now in this case. Without understanding why those have worked in that way. And when then they think like, oh, when I go try to do it, my opponent gets pissy at me because like I'm executing it wrong or something. And they don't understand why it doesn't work that way. And it sounds like Let's Go Fishing has just sort of been fed up with that and is no longer what's the word? Like educating them about it. Which feels to me, I don't know. I understand how that could happen. I think 40K is a crazy, like ruinously complicated game. I think 10th edition has, and to some extent, especially with the base blocking stuff, dude. Like the base contact must move into base and all that shit from charging. I think is such a bad mechanic, man. And I think it's like really exacerbated all these problems. I love this one from Baron Bulb. We're in the 40K Reddit. And he starts with, well, I no longer play 40K. Cool, man. What are we doing here, my guy? In 40 years of gaming, I've never actually met a single person who refused to learn the rules, but insist on playing. That seems so bizarre to me. I can't imagine it's very common, especially when people would simply play that person. My friend who's getting into 40K has never read the rules. Everything he knows is what I've told him shortly after I learned it myself. He routinely asks things like, it's so many words, or I just don't want to think. Make it simple for me. And then asks GPT to summarize the rules. I think, so to some extent, there's a lot of nuance to the rules that gets lost when you ask AI to do stuff for it. I think like summarizing or like breaking down rules into bullet points is a good use of AI when it comes to 40K rules. Asking ChatGPT 40K rules is so fucked though. Never ever do that. Wait, sometimes people like come into my like rules questions. They'll be like, hey, I have an FAQ for tournament. Here's a ChatGPT breakdown of the rule. And I'm like, literally get that out of my face. Go read the rule yourself and then come back to me. It's so often will miss nuance, or it will pull rules from previous editions. Because it's, if you're trawling the internet for 40K rules discussions, it oftentimes doesn't make a distinction whether you're playing 8th or 9th or 10th or 7th. And sometimes it will just conflate rules from different editions. How does cover work, ChatGPT? Oh, well, if you're wholly within a terrain feature, then you get cover. Well, also in 10th edition, they added 7 new ways to get cover where it happens all the time effectively. And ChatGPT might not know about that one time it looks. Definitely don't ask ChatGPT about 40K rules. Look them up yourself. You're also not going to learn anything. You're not going to learn how to read the rulebook if you never actually read the rulebook. Throughout our games, he will pull random shit out of his ass. Like when you're rolling to wound, he rolls a 5. And then I rolled a 4 to save, and he will go, but my 5 is higher than your 4. Does bro play Infinity? What is that? That's bizarre. Okay. Weird. The OP comes back and says, I've been playing Warhammer for about 26 years. I guess like he said he got back into the game recently, right? And I've encountered cheaters before. I've encountered people who didn't know or just forgot certain rules. With this big of a rulebook, it happens, and it's understandable. I've said to him multiple times that he needs to learn the rules himself. I've even told him that 11th edition drops, I'm not teaching him the rules, so he just won't, and he just won't freely learn them for whatever reason. All right. I feel like this is very common in TTRPGs like D&D. It's very common for it to be enabled because there's a GM to carry the game. Yeah, I think that like Also in D&D, I mean, it depends on your crew, but I imagine that like rote rules knowledge is much less important than it is in a competitive game. If you're in a collaborative game, then like discussing rules interactions with the rest of the team is like part of the gameplay, whereas that is not how it works in 40K. Like this is called weaponized incompetence. More weaponized incompetence discussion. Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm curious about that one because the OP said that they had taught this player the rules, and it's interesting to me that that's like, you know, I don't think you're going to teach the rules to somebody who like, you know, you've literally no relationship with to begin with. But it's interesting to me when you're like, I taught them the rules, and then they keep getting them wrong, and I'm like, well, I don't know, man. That's an interesting thing. Tried to make an AI rules master for 10th edition 40K. It was so stupid, I gave up. Brutal. It takes a certain level of passion to want to understand the rules. You sound like my son. He's into the lore and video games and miniatures, but being a rules enthusiast isn't his jam. Yeah, I get that. And honestly, like I do think that ends up sucking because like it becomes very difficult to play the game in like the tabletop game in any sort of serious way if that isn't your jam. Because like the rules minutia is such a big part of how these interactions were like how, you know, the rules minutia is such a big part, it like becomes a big part of the tactics and strategy. But I think that there's also a place for people to like, you know, to do that and not necessarily like, you know, be very involved competitively, which I think is okay. Chat, Gemini, and Grok all get the rules wrong, even if you specifically tell them to only use 10th edition and grab specific rules updates. They was just grab random stuff and smash it together. Yeah, my favorite was when we asked ChatGPT to build us a Space Marine list. I wonder if its model has improved at all. Let's see what it says, chat. We're gonna ask. Can you build me a Space Marine army list for 40K? Last time it told us to take the Warlord trait Rites of Battle. Oh man. Cool, thanks. This is slow as fuck. We're gonna be here for 100 years if we let it do its whole thing. All right. You don't need to give us every individual bullet point. Oh, it chose a detachment. Very good. Strike Force game. Love it. Gladius Task Force. Very nice. We have a Gravis Captain with Fire Discipline. Love it. Okay. We have a Primaris Lieutenant. Oh, chat. Glorious. First of all, it's a Primaris Lieutenant. That's not a data sheet in 10th edition anymore. All lieutenants have been rolled together. And he grants wound rerolls like he did in 9th edition. Let's go. Librarian and Foremost Armor. Okay, pretty cool. He hangs with the Infiltrators. That's a combo. 2 Intercessor units. All right, I'm into it. Aggressors with Boltstorm Gauntlets. We got a half of the Fire Discipline combo, but not the whole thing. 10 Hellblasters. 5 Terminators. Cool, man. 5 Terminators. Owl Riders. A Redemptor Dreadnought. With an Incinerator and Galley Cannon with Ballistic Dreadnought. All right, okay. Well, that's a list. That's one of the lists of all time. Is this even 2,000 points? I guess it is. We took Terminators, which are expensive. There you go, chat. We're already referencing 9th edition rolls. In the year of our Lord 2026, ChatGPT can't get it right. He gives lethal hits now, chance. Oh, I didn't ask for 10th edition list, but it said it was a 10th edition list. It said itself it decided to make a 10th edition list. Current LLMs tell me what I want to hear. Did I want to hear about Primaris lieutenants from that last edition chat? I don't think I did. All right, let's talk about the next thread. This is another relatively recent one from 2 months ago. And this is new player stuff. Tell me what they think I want to hear. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, sometimes it's helpful. I find it helpful for, there's a bunch of things it's helpful for like refining ideas. I think that's very good. It's very bad at coming up with its own ideas. But refining stuff is cool, and making like, sort of tweaks and suggestions to copy is very good. But it's a good at a refinement process, but the origin and end and termination of any project should not involve AI, because it is very obviously pretty trash. All right. V Warb over here thinks my friend is being cheated. Me and a friend both decided to get into 40K last year and started together. He's the only person I play against, and all my rules knowledge comes from reading the rule books and watching YouTube rules tutorials. Ooh, I wonder who he watches. Hopefully it's only, I don't know. Hopefully it's only this channel and no one else ever. I don't go to tournaments or play with strangers. Conversely, he has 3 or 4 other friends. He's cheating. He's in a polycule of 40K players that he also plays with, who have been playing since around 8th edition. Shout out. Let's go. Often, after he plays a session with them, he comes back with a new understanding of the rules that seem patently false to me. Uh-oh. And are almost universally to his detriment. Oh, shit. This is... What an indictment here. Maybe I'm just the one misunderstanding, but I'm becoming increasingly concerned that these other people he plays with are just straight up cheating. First of all, they told him that charges all need to be declared at once before actually rolling any. Super not correct. I'm quite certain this is wrong, but I figured maybe it's from an old edition or something and was fine with it. I don't think it is. I think it's from an old edition being like 4th or something. I don't think it's ever been that way since 8th edition. As long as it doesn't make a huge difference that often, and also makes interesting decision tension sometimes. Most recently, my friend started playing Guard. Suddenly, his friends decided to implement something they called tournament terrain rules. Suddenly, against Astra Militarum, in which they say a model inside a ruin can't be shot or shoot out at anything that's not inside the ruin footprint. No. Again, this is vastly different from everything I've read about ruins, where units inside the footprint use normal visibility rules and units outside the footprint treated as a solid wall. Their version is a massive nerf to guard shooting. Whoa. My friend trusts their word and quite enjoys playing with them. Oh, poor guy. He doesn't even know what's happening. So I'm reluctant to openly accuse them of cheating, even though I feel like they probably are. More importantly, I want to play a balanced game. I don't like feeling my own wins are unearned using rules I don't think are correct. I'm hoping to hear some opinions or ideas about how to approach the situation. Grizzled companies solved. Guys, we fixed the meta. Just if you're in a building, you're invincible. I think I know what this is, chat. So these, who remembers magic boxes from 8th edition? If these are people from 8th edition who are not that like hip to the jive when it comes to more recent tournament rule sets, they might literally think this is the same mechanic. So back in the day, because 8th edition literally didn't have terrain rules. The terrain rules were like a full, like 1 page. You used to have terrain called magic boxes, which was like a structure that models could move into that was determined to be opaque on all sides, which meant that you could not see or be seen when you were inside the structure. And that was done so that models didn't just like immediately evaporate, because 8th edition was a mess when it came to like alpha strikes. Everything could see everything all the time, 99% of the time, unless your terrain was crazy dense. and you would just like blast people to death immediately. You'd go first and just kill everyone. It was crazy. So you basically like house ruled all these terrain to be like, let's just imagine that the terrain is like this. Let's just imagine all the windows are boarded. Let's just imagine that this structure can't be seen in or out of. And I think I know where that rule comes from, and I think that sounds very similar to the old rules. However, in 10th edition these days, we have the Ruin line of sight blocking rules. So you can hide mechanically from other from line of sight by being behind a terrain template, which you could not do back in the day, which is why they had to make those rules. Though these rules are no longer necessary because we have the new line of sight blocking rules, sometimes you make rules that say we're going to consider the windows in our buildings to be boarded or something, just so that you could be a little bit farther forward and be inside the terrain and not be seen. But generally speaking, you don't say all 4 walls of this building are going to be, impervious to shooting. So I think I get where that is. But it definitely feels to me like these are some people who are maybe not really interested in being shot by Rogaldorns. Units inside the footprint use normal visibility rules, and units outside the footprint treat it as a solid wall. I think that's an oversimplification. Units wholly inside the footprint treat and use normal visibility rules, and units outside the footprint treat it as a solid wall. 2 models wholly outside. Again, chat, this is why you gotta over-explain all your rules, because 40K loves adding addendums to it. That's its favorite thing. I'm not sure if you're just miscommunicating or you misunderstood what someone has told you. Both of these interpretations are wrong. The first one quoted is what I was understanding the rules to be, but I'm new and going purely off the actual rule book. Use normal visibility rules in both directions. If one unit can see another unit, the other unit can see them. Being in the footprint gives you cover. Line of sight is only blocked if... No! What? That's wrong. What? Everyone's wrong. This is so incorrect. What? If one unit can see another unit, the other unit can see it. Being in the footprint only gives cover. No, being outside the footprint blocks line of sight to you, though. What? Line of sight is only blocked if there's something in the way to block it? Line of sight's only blocked, or if you're not inside the template of a ruin terrain feature. Am I stupid? Is that not what he just said? Units inside the footprint use normal visibility rules. And he says you use normal visibility rules in both directions. Oh, I guess like into or out of the footprint? All right. I guess I get it. But that's also not correct. You use normal visibility rules in both directions if one unit is wholly inside. If it's not wholly inside and it's only touching, you use normal visibility from the outside looking in, but not the other way around. Everyone's wrong. Everyone's wrong and silly. I'm so confused. This also sounds like this guy is saying that ruins don't block line of sight. I don't think that's what he's saying, but that's kind of what it sounds like he's saying. Wholly within the ruins, use true line of sight. Partially within the ruins can live situations where one unit can be shot but cannot return fire. Doesn't he talk about footprints? So a unit behind the footprint can't be seen. Yeah, I think these commentators, Invictus and Skedios, they know what's up. They're here to correct everyone's interpretation. Wild. I do like very confidently coming in and being like, you're incorrect. Here's what's right. And you're like, that's also not right. Wait, what? What are you talking about? You are correct that the footprint is opaque to units that aren't within it, except that they can see units that are within the footprint if they could normally draw a line of sight to them. Yes. A model that is wholly within a terrain footprint uses true line of sight rules. Often there are ruin walls for that will help block LOS in some directions, both into and out of a ruin, but they typically won't be full 360. Model within the footprint, yeah, people are just correcting his rules interpretation, which is good. Now he knows. Now everyone knows the correct rules. But also, real talk, too complicated. The fact that we need 1 million extra addendums because of the within, wholly within, all this bullshit is silly. I think we could go back to toe tapping ruins, and I don't think it would be that crazy, to be honest. There was an older edition that you did have to declare line of sight. You did have to declare all charges up front, but that was 7th edition, maybe 6th. Footprint issues, it's complicated. Yeah. Are you sure this isn't a telephone game issue? That's a good call out from me, no Xenos. Your friend tried to charge with one unit, fight with it, then charge with his second unit, and the other group was saying that you need to finish all your charges before you roll fights, and he just got it mixed up. Like was with ruins, was it just their confusion with a not wholly within tank your friend played, and he thought it applied to everything, or are they playing it as the ruins, the black line of sight, and we're trying to say he can't shoot through open windows. They kind of boarded up, same as many tournaments. Might just be a broken telephone confusion with the way ruin footprints work. The footprint being full line of sight block is very unintuitive and gets a lot of people. I do get that. Yeah, it could just be that unfortunately our opponent here, OP's OP, might just not necessarily have a hugely concrete grasp of the rules. And so he plays against people who do play the correct rules and then misinterprets what they say. Kind of like we were saying previously, where it's very easy to misinterpret a situation, for example, cover, where you're like, well, people inside a ruin give me cover if they're shooting at me. Well, yeah, only if the ruin's blocking line of sight to them, to the thing you're shooting at, then you would. So like they miss the asterisk on that statement, right? And they don't really understand why it was that way. And it might just be that they are reporting back what they think they understood. Taught your newbie friend ruin footprints in 5 minutes using a physical demo on a table before the game started. Not everyone can conceptualize words in their mind. Some just need visual demonstration. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think, and part of it's like the medium that we're like discussing with right now, where it's like, oh, we're just typing words out. So we definitely, it's very difficult to just write out in full, but like you said, a demonstration is the way to do it. That is the easiest way to teach people. It is unfortunate that the diagrams inside the core rulebook or inside the rules commentary are dramatically just not helpful at all. They're like mislabeled even. They're so bad. And it's unfortunate because we don't just have a diagram that we can point to. Because that would be really easy. I don't even think it would be that difficult. I think I might do this on Twitch at some point. We did a very brief read through of the StarCraft miniature game rules, which like the beta or the alpha version leaked online. And I have them, and they diagram everything. Everything is like just obsessively diagrammed out to the point where I think, and it's kind of cool what they did. I think they have like clear acrylic and they just laser cut. They might be photoshopped in. I don't know. But they look like they're acrylic templates. And they just laser cut acrylic templates for literally every rules instance. Every bit of like measurement minutia and line of sight and all this stuff. They're like, here's a little template, like displaying the line of sight. I thought it was very helpful. It is a very well-constructed rulebook. Worked at GW, do a total overhaul of the core rules. Free website with video demos. Yeah. I think it's necessary, but I think that there is a mandate against core rule updates. There's a reason that we're 3 years into 10th edition and they have never once changed the core rules, right? The rule book document that you can get online has never once been updated, even though in the rules commentary, the stratagems have changed, how you move models, like fundamentally how models interact with the battlefield has totally changed since the rulebook came out. A million different core mechanics have totally changed. Devastating was different, all this shit. And they've never changed the core rulebook, and I think that there's like some sort of corporate thing that's like, well, consumer trust or whatever is shaken when you update core rulebooks, especially ones we've sold in hard copy. So these changes can only ever be relegated to a secondary PDF, which is stupid and bullshit, and they need to get over themselves, but it is what it is. I mean, they're $1 billion company, and I have 12 cents, so I don't know. Anyway, chat, let's talk about disastrous pin. One disastrous pin over here. A new player from last week. Did I get cheated in one of my first games? Disastrous pin is new to the hobby. Started about a month ago. Welcome to the hobby, Disastrous pin. I hope you have a great time, except for this one game. I went to a local game store to play with someone other than my close group of friends. However, it did not feel the slightest bit the same. I play Necrons, and the game store worker... Oh, he played a employee. Ooh, plays World Eaters. A little coffee there. For context, I guess we're playing Incursion. My 1,000 point list was 2 Doomstalkers, 20 Warrior Brick, 3 Wraith Brick with a Technomancer, and a Reanimator in Canoptic Court. Cool. That is very 9th edition starters that peeled. His list was 2 Rhinos, 2 Berserker squads, Karn the Betrayer, an Executioner, a Howlbrute, and a 3-man squad of something I don't know the name of, probably Exalted 8-bound, if I had to guess. Immediately, I was confused, because I asked him if the store had mission cards, and he looked at me like I was stupid. This is awkward because CA 2025 has explicit rules for Incursion games. If you want to play 1,000 points, that is a supported points value. That's a supported game format inside the CA 2025 format. It has special rules and everything, and there's special effects for battle line units, and it's got its own mechanics and all that stuff. It's got its own list building rules and everything. So if you like immediately go like, oh, can we play the Incursion game rules? And then he goes, no. You're like, well, okay. That's a little bit weird, but all right. Immediately, I was confused because I asked him if the store had mission. We already talked about that. After I asked, he said, no, we can just play with objectives or last man standing. With objectives. What does that even mean? He also said that each objective is worth 1 VP a turn, except the opponent's deployment objective, which is probably worth 2. It's already a little bit weird, but whatever. I didn't really care that much because I just want to play the game. I mean, I think it's like probably fine if you're like, listen, I've never read CA 2025. I have no idea how it works. Do you want to just put objectives on the table and just like say that they're worth victory points if you hold them? I mean, that's honestly like probably fine. The difference between an objective being worth 1 and being worth 5 doesn't matter if you don't have any other victory points, in the game entirely. Downside, of course, being that I think Necrons are going to deal significantly less damage to your opponent than Berserkers. So if your whole thing is like, I'm playing 20 warriors so that I can like do obsec stuff, and your opponent's like, I kill, and then we decided to play without secondary objectives, well, a little bit of a benefit to the World Eater player. Although I don't think that this doesn't seem to me like it is it's something malicious. I think it's just that like we talked about at the very beginning, we're playing against the store employee, right? The store employee, yeah, we did say he was a store employee, right? Oh, maybe he didn't. Did I just misread that? Oh, no. Store worker. Yeah. Game store worker. He did say that in the first sentence. He said it was a store employee. And like I said before, these people are not always necessarily like hyper enfranchised in any one particular game. Especially an employee is just like, well, I don't know. I just work here, man. And if you're like a brand new player who's like, please play a game with me, so I come back to the store. Like in some cases, you are you're like obligated to play like learner games with them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have an encyclopedic knowledge of the game mechanics, right? I don't know the exact situation, but I would imagine that this is not somebody who plays 40K a lot, right? He's like, I'm a Magic the Gathering player, but I guess we're playing 40K today. That's just part of my job, I suppose. Deployment and turn order went as normal. It felt completely normal until his Rhino reached my Wraiths. He disembarked and wiped my squad unit in 1 turn, including the Technomancer. The unit was full starting strength with no damage. I mean, it's only 3 Wraiths. And it is 10 Khorne Berserkers, with 10 Berserkers and Master of Executions. I was surprised, but I thought maybe World Eaters are that strong because melee is their whole thing. When I really felt something was off after his second Rhino died, his 10 Berserker squad and Karn charged my 20 Warrior Brick, 20 Warriors, 2 Tomb Crawlers, and a Plasmancer, and an Overlord, and wiped them all in a single turn. That is a lot. We did like 30 damage with what should be, I don't know, if it's Berserker Warband, probably 50 attacks. I'm still very new, so I thought maybe he just got really lucky because he had sustained hits, lethal hits, and devastating wounds from his World Eater ability. Is that possible? You get all three? With bonuses to charge. If you can get 3 if you kill a character, right? That's how it works. I don't think there's a way to get all 3. I guess like maybe you could roll perfectly. No, because you can only buy 2 blessings of corn, right? That's how it works. Am I crazy? Go through the army ability. I think it's a cap of 2 purchases, right? Even if you roll really well. You can activate up to 2. And then Berserker Warband has a strat where I think if you kill a character, you can activate a 3rd one, right? Skulls for the Skull Throne? Yeah. When you kill just a character or a monster, you can make a Blessings of Corn roll and use the results to activate 1 Blessing of Corn. Until the end of the battle round, that Blessing of Corn is active in addition to any others. So, if he would have to have killed the Technomancer in the same turn that he charged the warriors and have activated the ability to get the 3rd Blessing of Corn, right? To get all 3 abilities active. I think that's what's going on here, yeah? I think that's what's happening. That's only war rules. 1 VP and a max of 3 per turn. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough, I guess. That's the only format where you're allowed to turn 1 Deep Strike, by the way. It's only war. Pretty fun little thing there. I think every other game format says turn 2 Deep Strike only. But there you go. Yeah. So the only way this works is if he kills the Technomancer and the whole warrior brick in one go, which was GG, right? He just killed everything. But it doesn't sound like that's what happened because this is after his 2nd Rhino died. So it's like another round had passed and the Doomstalkers killed a Rhino and then the unit disembarked. I lost that game, but it was close and I lost by 2 points. So it seems like this guy doesn't know the rule. It's a cap of 2 Blessings of Corn, I think, is the problem. I'm still very new, so I thought that maybe he just got really lucky because he had lethal hits, sustained hits, and devastating wounds from his World Eater ability and bonuses to his charge. Is there any charge bonuses in Berserker Warband? There's Apoplectic Frenzy, which is advanced in charge, right?
Beyond 6,931 donated $2 through Super Chat. Trevi said you can turn 1 Deep Strike.
I'm fairly reasonable. I'm reasonably certain. I mean, I guess I could look it up in the core rules here. I'm reasonably certain that it's the only like format with actual missions that does not specify that you cannot turn 1 Deep Strike. Is in Total War. I know that Crusade, obviously all the chapter approved ones do, all the mission formats do, and Crusade explicitly does. However, if we look at the core rules in the only war mission format in declare battle formations, it does not specify that their units in reserve must arrive from battle round 3 onwards. Whereas this is where it says they can't do that in chapter approved. So if you play this mission, only war, this is the only time you can actually turn 1 Deep Strike. Unless you have like other special house rules or there's like custom scenarios I'm not aware of. I believe that is the case. So every time someone's like, well, technically it says you can turn 1 turn 1 Deep Strike at the core rulebook because it says you just come in at the end of any reinforcement step. And you have to play special rules to say you can't do that. You're not wrong, but every mission besides this one says that you can't. So if you want to turn 1 Deep Strike people and just like ruin them with Inceptors or whatever, just play only war forever and never play anything else. That's my advice to you. You can take that to the bank. That's free advice right there. Index Karn gave Dev on the charge? The Grotzmess lets you pick a third. Oh, that's true. He could be playing Vessels. I just assumed it was Berserker Warband, but it could be Vessels. Yeah, I guess you're right. So there are ways to get all three things. This is within the last month though. So this isn't Index Hammer, unless we're just playing Index and not playing Codex, which is like I don't know what to tell you then. Those are just old rules. It is what it is. Yeah, reroll charges is what we can get. Yeah. Reroll charges and advance and charge for a command point, which might have happened, right? Because it was after the Rhino died. So the Rhino might have died and is like, you know, on his side, and then he just like advances and charges and rerolls. Who knows? But that does feel like a lot of blessings of corn. I don't know. It's a little sus. It's a little sus. I ended up playing a second game, but this is when I really felt like he was not playing the actual rules. He said he had an ability where he could move 6 inches every time one of his berserkers dies, and use that move on his berserkers to move 4 feet in 2 turns. After he wiped my Wraith squad in 1 turn again, with his now 7-man berserker squad, I asked what his attacks were. He said that he had a chain blade and an eviscerator. So each berserker made 7 attacks. That's not how that works. Nope. Nuh-uh. I said, I'm pretty sure you can only choose 1 weapon because that's I've read the rules over before. But I asked, he said very abruptly and rudely, that's how they work. I've always done it that way. My brother, in the light of the Emperor, that's super not how it works, my guy. Nope. Some of your guys have eviscerators, and some of your guys have chainswords. I guess if he said he's making 7 attacks, he's not playing Berserker Warband, right? Because otherwise they would be making 8. If they got +1 or 9, I guess, if you dual attacked your weapons. Listen, they've got 2 hands, so 1 hand is a chainsword, 1 hand is an eviscerator. What's the problem? Nope, not correct. That's not right. That's not how that goes at all. You choose 1 melee weapon. OP is correct. Choose 1 weapon. That's how it goes. 2 inkies a turn. You can't come in from reserve turn 1. No, you can't come in from strategic reserve turn 1. However, if you play only war, you can come in from deep strike turn 1. But no one plays that mission because it's like a newbie mission for newbies. And then it is what it is. I did the math, and that means his 10-man squad was doing 70 plus around 12 for sustained hits attacks in each fight phase, not including his executioner, for almost 50 to 60 wounds per turn. Incredible. Why'd you make a one-off mission whose rules simply confused with every other mission? Because it's 40k, dude. If the question is why do the rules work this way, the answer is because who cares? Because that's how they wrote it. Because they're not very smart sometimes. I don't understand. It's an eternal pet peeve of mine that the rule that says you can't deep strike turn 1 is included in mission formats, not the core rules, because every mission format, like we said before, says you can't do that. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's a holdover from like 8th, where 8th let you come in turn 1 until they realized it was really stupid, and then they like put it in like a weird place, and they just never put it in the core rule book, and then like they never added it back in when they moved to like 9th edition or whatever. It was like, it's very stupid. It's like tech debt almost for rules, for game rules. I don't know. Are World Eaters really that strong? No, they're not. Super not. World Eaters players in chat. Are World Eaters players that strong? Tell me. Do you feel like a god when you activate 4 Blessings of Corn and attack with your 70 attack Corn Berserker units that have a 2 damage weapon and a 1 damage weapon? Probably not. Edit for clarification. Thank you, OP, for clarifying. After giving it some thought, I don't think he was intentionally cheating. He did say that he doesn't really play 10th edition. And usually only played 9th. However, looking at his stuff, he definitely made several mistakes, barely explained or didn't explain at all what he was doing or his data sheets. I did notice around every 2 to 3 rounds, he would roll a bunch of dice before his turn. that is the Blessings of Korn roll. The Berserkers were definitely stronger than normal because he was treating them all as shipping chain blades and eviscerators and attacking with both. Super not how that works. You can only have, it's like 2 eviscerators per unit, maybe 3, I think. And then they replace the chain blade. He also may have been rolling really lucky because I do recall a ton of 6s for his rolls. Whatever the case, I don't mind losing, and I'm not holding it against him, but it still doesn't excuse his poor understanding and at best, blatant cheating at worst. I still plan on sticking to the game. Hopefully I know the rules better if I play against him. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't feel like this is a guy that you will benefit massively from playing against. It also doesn't sound like a guy who really wants to play against you. It sounds really bad. But the he's like a store employee, right? So he's like, self-admittedly not someone who plays a lot of 40k, is probably just doing this to like, play with a customer, right? It's like a slow day and we're going to let a customer get a game in so that they like come back in the future. This happens occasionally. It happens all the time. I'm not going to say occasionally. This is constant, right? Employees play against customers. They have like loaner armies from the store that they use. And they're just like, yeah, I'll rock up a game. Of course, man. I'm just doing a bunch of shit, because I can't look, I can't be bothered to look up the rule because I'm doing this for $12 an hour and I got to get back to stocking shelves or whatever. So we got to rock this game in 90 minutes. So I'm just going to play with the best of my understanding of the rules. The number of times I've seen exactly this game go down is crazy. It's like constant. I don't know if they're, somebody you should be going out of your way to play against. And I also don't think it's like necessarily like crazy. It's not like malicious cheating to destroy a new player. I don't think that this guy necessarily like cares that much about the end of the game. He just literally doesn't know the rules because he probably doesn't play that much. I don't know. It is what it is. This is exactly what I was discussing at the beginning of the stream when we were talking about asking a store owner for rulings. The store employees are not necessarily people who know a ton about 40k rules, which is always fun. Which is always like, it's very funny to me when people ask the store employees like they are someone with the encyclopedic knowledge of the rules, when realistically they're just here to sell miniatures, my guy. They might not necessarily understand all of the rules for a game, unless they are, sometimes they do bring in people who are explicitly like 40k people, or they're like the 40k TO and they like write all the rulings documents. That does happen, but more often than not, if you just like ask a random game store employee a 40k rule, they're not going to know. And I think like this is what happens when that occurs. It just sucks. Just sucks. It's a new player who just had a really bad game, but it is what it is. Unfortunate chat. Okay. Got a couple more of these bad mamma jammas before we wrap things here. If I can find my notes. Play Gore-Trek Onslaught. Don't you wish your Berserkers attacked 70 times, though? All right. This one is the ultimate in new player Stomperage chat. I have saved the best for last. It is a short one, but oh boy, it is sweet. It is from just a couple months ago from Mega Bloof Cosplay. Mega Bloof. It's like Mega Block, but oof. Before you say anything, title is pretty sure a player was cheating last time I played it, but I'm not sure. Mega Bloof says, before you say anything, I know how the title sounds. However, I'm new to playing Warhammer, and I'm willing to admit I lost fairly, as my entire army of orcs was wiped out during the match. R.I.P. New player picking up orcs. No, buddy. No, I know orcs are cool and fun, but they suck and are hard to play. Unfortunate. However, from what I did learn points-wise, my opponent began deducting points for reasons that seemed unfair. Dude, this also keys into last week's topic so well, too. You ready? I missed a spot on my miniatures while painting them. Bro. The most brutally accurate interpretation of the battle ready points value. Every part of your miniature must be painted. Every part. If you are not fully painted, deduct 10 points. You missed a spot, you fuck. You don't deserve the full points for this casual game we're playing at the game store. Oh my God. This is like, it's so perfectly accurate why I don't like this rule. This just gave a guy ammunition to dunk on a new player because he missed a spot on his miniatures while painting. What the fuck do you have going on in your life when that is something you worry about? Holy shit. Ready for this? He deducted points because I didn't shout WOG when activating my WOG. That's unnecessary. You don't have to do that. People just do it because they like to do it, but it's not an actual rule. Could you imagine? That is some first edition AOS bullshit right there. Oh, you have to get up and you have to stand on your chair and you have to shout WOG with both arms in the air. If you don't do that, the ability doesn't work. Are you serious? Are you a serious person? No, you're a goober. You're a weird clown if you think that's how the game works. People do it because they're exuberant. You can be a reserved person and play 40k and play orcs and just say, I'm going to use my once per game army ability this turn, and your opponent understands what's going on. You don't have to yell. And also, what is the mechanism by which you deduct points from them for not doing that? If, let's say in the Bizarro universe, where 40k is a dog shit bad game, and this is an actual rule, what is the mechanic by which you are deducting victory points from your opponent for misdeclaring their activation? Oh, if I said I wanted to use Armor of Disdain instead of Armor of Contempt, minus 10 VP. What are you talking about? That's crazy. Wild. Several other rulings that just seemed very nitpicky. I ended up not getting any points, leaving it 0 to 100. And while some players stood up for me, good for them, by the way. Good for them. Whoever your opponent was, kick them out of the fucking store, dude. Get them out of this community. What is wrong with them? He was only let off with a warning because I didn't immediately call bullshit. The scores of the match couldn't be changed, meaning I dropped. Oh, is it tournament game? What? Oh, I didn't. That was not specified in the thing. You've been playing first of all, Mega Bloof cosplay. Man's been playing Warhammer, or a person, I guess they didn't say their man. Person has been playing Warhammer for I guess they don't say how long you've been playing, right? I guess you're very new to play Warhammer, but they're still playing in tournaments. Absolute hats off to you. Good for getting in there. Holy shit. That totally recontextualizes this whole thing. This was all in a tournament? Your opponent deducted you points because you did not yell WOG in a tournament game? And they only realized after the scores were submitted? Actually ban them. Actually ban them. Painting stuff? I guess if it's in the rule book, I mean, it is what it is, right? It could be a rule. If you aren't battle ready painted in a tournament game, I think maybe I understand. You lose 10 points. That sucks, and it's a good reason to criticize the rule, because you have just taken a very new player who is going to one of their first tournaments, and they feel like they had a bad time because they missed a spot on their miniatures. That sucks. It's a bad rule. Don't use it for your RTTs. Don't make new players play by it. That's stupid. It's stupid and bad. But if it is the rule, it is the rule. I get it. If you got points deducted for not yelling WOG, that's unhinged and insane. This is crazy. A warning for this is insane. How could any of this be done in good faith? Yeah, great question. Great question. One of life's great mysteries. Chippers1 says, I didn't shout WOG when activating my WOG during the Master Very Reserved person. Fuck that. You'd have to call bullshit on these people, or they keep getting away with nonsense like this. 100%. Absolutely fuck this guy. Also, this thread has no upvotes. This thread has a downvote. Who downvoted this person? Are you kidding me? Squidmaster616 says this is at a tournament, in which case this is something you should have been spoken about. That should have been spoken about with the TO. Oh, also, I'm going to call out real quick here. So he scored 0 points because the opponent apparently deducted points from him. First of all, that's fucking crazy. If they legitimately scored nothing, got tabled, and their opponent got a 100 point win, and they didn't get battle ready, all right, I get it. It is unironically difficult to score literally nothing in 40K. It's not impossible. Everyone's done it at least once, but it's very difficult to be like, I didn't accidentally draw engage on all fronts and get 1 point. You know what I mean? Which speaks to me the fact that they actually did like deduct them points for like some bullshit reason. I don't know if that is the case, but maybe it is. In any case, this is also additionally vindictive from the opponent because they were already winning, right? They tabled their opponent. And scored 100 points. It doesn't matter what your opponent scores at that point. So if they are a new player and you're not an asshole, walking them through some activations so they come back with a better understanding of the mechanics of the game and how to play in a tournament format is like common courtesy, bro. You're like, oh, draw your cards. What did you get? Aerie Denial? Oh, well, if you do this and you attack this guy, you could maybe score that. You know, maybe they get some points from it. Unless you're playing differential scoring, which you shouldn't in a singles format. I'll die on the hill that that's bad and degenerate. And even then, it doesn't matter because you win by at least 50 points, so you still get the max differential. It doesn't make a difference. Your opponent's score doesn't matter for your final position outside of like some weird path to victory stuff, or if you both end up with the same record and it goes down to tiebreakers. That's the only position where like actively just nerfing your opponent on victory points is beneficial to you. And the times that those come into play are so rare that especially in a non-hyper competitive 1-day tournament, you are not incentivized to like play that way in any way. And if you're playing against someone who's new, holy shit, dude. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're going to go out of your way to 100-0 them? Jesus Christ. That's crazy. I'm not even saying that that is necessarily something that the player was not perfectly in their rights to do, but I will say that they're an asshole for doing so. I think that that's very fair. You might be perfectly within your rights to utterly dominate your opponent and 100-0 them because it makes you feel like a big guy, but it doesn't make you a big guy. It makes you a little dipshit. And you gotta fucking calm down, dude. Squidmaster616 says, this was in a tournament, in which case this is something that should have been spoken about with the TO no matter what size event. Opponents can't just deduct points on their own whim. You have to stick to game and event rules. If the event said anything about paint, then missing a spot shouldn't have meant anything. If the event said any amount of paint, then missing a spot shouldn't have meant anything. And you don't have to shout WOG. That's unhinged, for sure. This sounds like a bad player. And if it ever happens again, call the TO, get the ruling on it. Were I running that event, I'd have called it both of these in your favor and given your opponent a warning about sportsmanship, which it sounds like he did get, in fairness. At minimum, it shouldn't even be possible to score 0 unless you're wiped out in your own first turn. Yeah, I mean, it can happen if you like draw bad secondaries turn 1 and then you get tabled turn 2. Like your opponent just like hits you really hard and then doubles down and kills you. He did get a warning, even though I finished 9th next time I came in. He said I technically finished 8th without the points reduction, so I can say I finished 8th. Top 8! Bro, we topped 8. He's doing a 40K. He topped 8 the tournament. Let's go. Let's go. I don't know how many players, but hopefully that's good. What the TRD should have done if the points were so dramatically changed because of arbitrary deductions, which would be cheating, by the way, 100% is cheating, is change the score and given you a total victory. Well, I mean, I guess so. Next time, don't stand for it. Keep your own scores for the next game. And if your opponent tries to claim deductions, call a TO. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, I think the game is generically... I know especially like newer players be like, I don't really want to keep track of the scores. Like, just can you do it? But the game is like so much more clear cut, and there's you have a leg to stand on if there is a discrepancy in points at the end of the game. That I do think that both players should play the game for sure. This is where tournament players are all win at all costs bullshit comes from. Yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah, and it's so awkward too. Like, here's the thing, right? This is it's unfortunate, and this happens in every game. It's every game forever, where it's like the upper echelon of players who are very good are generally going to be sweet people, right? Because they know what's going on. It's normal stuff to them. Going to a tournament, that's normal shit. And the people at the bottom don't really care because they're losing all their games. And they're just like, dude, I just built like a silly army. I played all monster Thousand Suns like someone did in a tournament this weekend and did really bad. So, you know, they don't really care, but it's the mid tables, dude. It's the people who are playing for 8th versus 9th, bro, who are like cutthroat. It's important to me that I finish 8th versus 9th. Dude, who cares, dude? That's what you're going to sell your soul on? 8th versus 9th, brother? That's crazy. And it's this like this mid-table mentality where it's like you have to finish with a winning record. So I have to like do everything I can to get the most points ever. That I think is like it does create that perception. It's so not correct because, like I said, it's a very slim margin of people in a very slim segment of the community. But oh boy, does it really happen? I do think though, in general, there is more of a or there's more commonly like a toxic attitude, I would say, in casual games and like pickup games with regular people, because I think the tournament community definitely tends to push those people out. But I would be lying to say that it doesn't happen. And it's unfortunate because it is something that does like create a perception for sure. Oh my God. Start by the beginning. If it's a tournament, what your opponent says regarding your points doesn't matter. The first 10 regarding points for the pinned army is the TO decision to give them to your army, not your opponent. Yeah. Again, this is so perfect because we talked about this last week. Do not make this the player's prerogative, by the way. Then you create situations like this where your opponent's like, oh, is that battle ready? That doesn't look ready for a battle to me, my guy. Come on, man. Get out of here. If the TO doesn't want to give you the points, just let them say that. The another nonsense like needing you to shout WOG, what the hell is your opponent talking about? That's not your point. That's not how it works. Lastly, you can't deduct points on how scoring works. You only gain points. When an opponent starts to pull absurdity like that, you do two things. Ask them to show you the rules because the burden of proof is on him, not you, and then call the TO immediately. Yeah. Unacceptable behavior. You can't deduct points. You could argue over stuff, but your first sentence... But your first sentence, if your opponent wants to stop you from scoring points, you should be less as a judge. Sorry to hear tournament experience where it's like that. That is not all okay. You should definitely ask not to be paired with that guy again. I won't even go into details, but nothing about this sounds remotely okay. It's unfortunate too. Like I get these requests sometimes where people ask not to be paired against specific other people. Unfortunately, I think like that's tough because when you're talking about, and obviously like in this case, like the, scoring integrity of this tournament's been fucked over because one player just decided to cut points from the other player for no reason. But that's tough because like there's a potential weaponization of that if someone's like kind of a bad actor. And so like requesting not to play against people in tournaments, I think I don't know, as a TO, it's not something that I will accept, which like I feel bad about in some cases, but if you're like, oh, I don't want to play against that guy because he plays Necrons, you're like, well, get fucked, dude. You got to tech for Necrons. And I think that if you do allow people to request not to be paired, that is like something that will almost certainly happen, is that there's like a weaponization of that kind of interaction. But it is a thing where it's like the TO, if you should complain about players so that the TO knows their problem. If it happens more times, then they can ban them. But also, it lets them spend more time spectating that person's games. And that means that if situations like interactions like this come up, right, they're much less likely to go uncaught. If you know that this guy's gotten sportsmanship complaints against him in the past, you just hover on his table.
Young 6,931 donated $5
What's up?
through Super Chat. There's a lot of mid-table PPL that solely get there by abusing politeness or gotchas. This kind of play was just harder to pinpoint in past editions.
I think that's definitely true. Yeah, there's definitely like those people where you're like, you know, they go 4-1 or whatever, and you're like, how do they do that? I've played against them. They're not very good. But yeah, somebody who will like generally sort of like try to push the boundaries for sure. This sounds a little bit like someone who was just like tryharding incredibly hard. Well, it's a tournament, you should bring your A game or whatever. Fuck you, dude. Who cares? Tournaments are just chained games of 40K. And if you can't play a game of 40K and be reasonable with your opponent, you shouldn't be playing at all. Personal thing says your opponent didn't cheat. He was an absolute prick about it. So other players have mentioned he only gained points during games, no deductions. Hopefully TOs make sure he gets paired into top players to tank his score. Brutal. Just pump up his elo. So he gets blown out. All right, chat. What a crazy one. Dude, that one got me all hot and bothered. That was crazy. I just saw this fucking comment. This post is not real. I stand by that. OP says I posted photos from the day I was playing against Emperor's Children. You're just trying to make it on TacticalTortoise. He succeeded. He did it. Mission accomplished. Megan Blue says I have no idea what that is. Oh, it's straight to my heart, chat. Straight a dagger. A dagger has been placed in my body, and I will die. Well, even if it is a grift, he has succeeded. But it is a good grift that gave us some good laughs. That's very good, chat. And with that, I think we will wrap things up. Thanks everyone for watching. I should be live over on Twitchies later this week. Probably not today because I have a million things to finish up that I have not done, that I owe people, and I'm being slow and lazy on. So that's going to be, I think we're going to be back on later this week, playing some community plays, I think is what's going on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live streamed game yesterday, which we did on YouTube instead of Twitch, which I think was interesting. That was a pretty good game, if I do say so myself. We'll have another one on Monday. That's going to be on Twitch, but we'll see what the reaction is from the people who watch on YouTube. I'm definitely open to streaming more on YouTube, because I do tend to stream my games there on Twitch, but I'm not 100% sure about it because I mean it depends on how the stuff goes on. So I don't know. Anyway, folks, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I will see you all later. Keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming. Don't forget to yell WOG so your opponent doesn't deduct you 10 points for demerits. See ya.